This video is going to talk about why it would make more sense for someone to fall asleep later the more west their time zone is, and the more east their time zone is to wake up later. In my opinion, that makes sense, and here is the backup. So when it was, I'd say, January or maybe February, obviously sunsets were very early and sunrises were pretty late. Let's take New Buffalo, Michigan, and Michigan City, Indiana, on opposite sides of the time zone. Where in Michigan City the sun would rise at 8:08, it would rise at 7:08, and in Michigan City rise at 8:08. But it would set at 5:41 in Michigan City, was it was set at 6:41 in New Buffalo. Why? Well, because the time zone naturally would have kept going straight, but there's an hour ahead. So it can't do that naturally, and therefore you see huge resets. I believe that's 6:41 and 5:42, because New Buffalo is a little bit further north. Nevertheless, sunrises and sunsets are normally 1 hour apart. Sometimes you get 59, 58 minutes, but normally it's an hour. So here's why I think that people in Michigan City would naturally wake up an hour earlier than people living in New Buffalo. So we're going to take someone in Central Time Zone where we could accurately measure the boundaries with land borders. The eastern boundary goes along whatever river is on the Georgia-Alabama border, which I don't know what it is. I'll leave a footnote telling you what that is. But it actually begins in Florida and then goes up. It goes up the Georgia-Alabama border, then it goes through eastern Tennessee and Kentucky, though not exactly sure where. Then it goes through the contentious part of Indiana. And Indiana, I think, is one of the more difficult places, as it points is on the Indiana-Illinois border, but at points, it's actually in Indiana. Like, for example, the two counties that border Lake Michigan, and I believe potentially one other county in the northwest, and then the city of Evansville. Finally, it goes decisively through Lake Michigan, although there is a slab of the westernmost part of the Upper Peninsula that belong to Central Time. Whereas the western boundary actually goes on a border, I believe, between whatever county is east of El Paso and the county east of that. Then I believe it goes on a Texas-New Mexico border and the Texas-Oklahoma border. Then it goes through the westernmost region of Kansas, and Nebraska, before actually being around the 2/3 mark from Nebraska / Minnesota to Wyoming / Montana. It's actually the 2/3 mark, I think, of there. And then North Dakota, literally the southwestern suburbs of Bismarck, North Dakota goes through. Although I do think that it does realign on the North Dakota-Montana border. So you could see that someone who lives in El Paso would, assuming that you have a 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., normally in the center of the time zone would get up at 6:30 a.m. and go to sleep at 9:30 p.m. Whereas in El Paso is mountain time, whereas the person who lives in Bismarck, North Dakota, they would naturally get up at 7:30 a.m. and go to bed at 10:30 p.m. and that's their local time. Because if you swap time zones, you actually get the same result. And the same could be said between other points. Like, I mean, you could, like, there's a lot of points that you can compare, and